We're live.
And then once you start the meeting, or moments before you start the meeting, I will start streaming it.
Everybody's busy. Jumping on. Good morning, Mandy.
Good morning, Erin. How are you?
I'm well. I haven't seen you in person, so I will congratulate you in person on your new gig.
Thank you, ma'am.
Fantastic.
Another week and a half. How's everything? Good?
It is. It is.
Good. Looks like we had a good agenda today.
I'm glad you think so.
Hey, Mandy.
Well, hello there, Dr. Teamer. How are you?
I'm good. How have you been?
Good. I talked to Kiki not too long ago.
Yeah, I know everybody's been so crazy busy, and I also didn't get a chance to congratulate you. So excited for you.
Yes, I am too, and hoping I still get to plug in somehow to support HBCUs.
Yeah, I'm sure you will. You know, we'll figure out a way for you, Mandy.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
Well, I will be focusing on ramping up inclusion initiatives for my parish for economic development. So you never know, there may be some opportunities.
Yes, yes, and yes.
All right, Aaron, I'm going to push live right now.
We're going to give everyone a few more minutes to jump on. And then we'll get started with this morning's HBCU Advisory Council meeting. Yes, I hear Dr. Rita's going to jump on right now. Good morning, President Ducote.
Good morning, ma'am. How are you?
I am dandy.
That's good.
For those just jumping on, we're giving everybody just a few seconds. Crazy busy morning for everyone. And then we'll get started. Here's Madam Chairperson.
How are you?
I am great. We were giving everybody just a few more seconds.
Okay, let me know when you're ready. Sorry, I had a 9 o'clock that ran over.
Yeah, it happens to the best of us,
I'm
right?
happy to see our new student. How are you?
I'm doing well, Dr. Reed. How are you?
Good. Now tell me, Emmanuel Ocote?
Ucote. Yes, ma'am.
Ucote. Thank you. Got to get that name right.
Thanks so much for the opportunity. I appreciate it.
Oh, so excited to have you with us. How are your studies?
It's going well. Entered my senior year, just like that. Time is flown. So 4 years just like that. But it's exciting and stressful, right?
You got this. You got this, sir. Back to
Thank you.
Houston, or are we going to keep you in Louisiana?
I'm open to any opportunities at this moment. So
Okay.
full-time opportunities after this.
Okay. Good.
Okay, Madam Chair, we have 16 online out of 21 confirmed planning to participate. I will leave it to you if you think we should wait a little bit longer or if you want to go ahead and get started.
Okay, let's start. I want to be sensitive to everyone's time, and I know we have a lot to cover, and I'm sure others will pop in. They're probably doing like me, having a 9 o'clock that ran a little long. So with that, I will say good morning and welcome to the HBCU Advisory Council meeting, November 2nd already. And calling the meeting to order at 10:03. Before I ask Aaron to call the roll, I'm very excited to welcome Emmanuel Ocote, who is our new student member for the HBCU Advisory Council. As you all recall, Representative Jason Hughes brought legislation for us last session. And one of our very important additions to the council was to elect a student member from the HBCU student presidents. And so Emmanuel was elected. He is a senior from Houston, majoring in business management at Xavier University, doing amazing work. I'll let him share a little bit about the things that he is passionate about, but he certainly has made his mark in terms of supporting student work and is a student who is committed to giving back to his community, our kind of guy, and really appreciate welcoming him and having that student voice intentionally added to the HBCU Council. So Emmanuel, congratulations to you and welcome, and the floor is yours.
Thank you so much. I appreciate it. And thank you, Representative Hughes, for introducing that legislation. I'm excited to represent our HBCU student population here on the council and provide that crucial student voice in what we do. And so I really look forward to some intentional conversations around what we can do to further support our HBCUs and ultimately the students that we serve. So thank you so much for keeping us in mind in everything that you do.
Wonderful. Thank you so much. Okay, so let me also mention that with the legislation, we will rotate between public and private institutions. So Emmanuel will be with us for a year, and then we will elect there will be an election for one of the public HBCU presidents to serve. So very excited to have him. I see Mandy Mitchell on. Congratulations to Mandy and her new role. Just so proud of you, Mandy, and we will miss you, and hopefully you'll figure out a way to stay engaged with us as well. So with that, let me ask Aaron to call the roll.
Absolutely. First off, Kim Hunter-Reed is present.
Present.
Dr. James Ammons.
Present.
Senator Joseph Bowie. Okay. Senator Gerald Boudreaux.
Present.
Okay. Mr. Preston Castile. Secretary Ava Dejoie. Okay. Dr. Rodney Ellis. Okay. Representative Randall Gaines. I know that President Gallo is not going to be able to join us this morning. Representative Patrick Jefferson. Also, Dr. Henderson, Jim Henderson is not able to join us. He's the chair of the Northwestern Presidential Search Committee that's meeting this morning. Senator Jimmy Harris. Chair Cleo Fields. Okay. Representative Jason Hughes.
Here.
Excellent. Dr. Walter Kimbrough.
I'm here.
Excellent. Dr. Orlando McMeans. Sorry.
Present.
Mandy Mitchell is here. And I believe that's Mr. Let's see. Dr. Larissa Littleton Scott. Okay. Dr. Toya Barnes Teamer. You get the gold star for being the first one on the Zoom this morning.
Present.
Okay, let's see. Ms. Kelsey Perrine. Emmanuel Ucote.
Here.
Dr. Reynold Verrett.
This is Dr. Mabel Moore. I'm here representing Dr. Verrett.
Wonderful. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Mabel. Ms. Orlando Williams. And Stephanie Willis. Okay, thank you very much. Appreciate it.
Right. Do we have a quorum, right, Aaron? We're good? Yes, we have a quorum, Aaron? Yes, okay.
Yes.
Got it.
Sorry,
Thank
I
you.
was nodding.
Okay, sorry about that. Okay, so good morning again. Thank you all for being here. With the quorum, I will ask for approval of the minutes that were sent to you. The minutes are from the April 26th, 2021 meeting. Is there a motion to approve our minutes?
I'll offer the motion up. Gerald Boudreaux.
Thank you. There's a motion by Senator Boudreaux, a second by Representative Hughes.
I think it's not working, so I just called the USA conference number.
We
The
hear you.
USA,
Dr. Pierre, we hear you. Okay, so we have a motion and a second. Any opposition? Hearing and seeing none, those minutes are approved. Thank you. Our focus this morning is on technology and connectivity, and we're very happy to have our Executive Director for the Office of Broadband and Connectivity with us. Vineet, thank you so much for joining us to give us an update. There is so much work that we have to do to make sure that we are connecting our communities across the state. So much promise, so much focus and discussion as a result of the pandemic. So we're hoping that this will accelerate our ability to really advance good work for our people, and very excited to have Vineet leading that charge for us. So I'll turn it over to him with my thanks. We're eager to hear where we are and what we can do to continue to move this work forward. So thank you.
Well, thank you, Commissioner Reed. If you'll indulge me, I actually have a couple of slides that I wanted to share, which puts us on a sort of a level playing field on where we are and
Sure.
what we're excited to roll out very soon. But I also want to acknowledge Senator Boudreaux. Thank you for hosting us in Opelousas a couple of weeks ago with your colleagues. Representatives Bryan and Miller and Representative Hughes. Really appreciate your leadership. And I think between the two of you, you guys are at the tip of the spear when it comes to that rapid convergence between trying to bring together the HBCU network and the folks that are on this call, but also with regards to what we're trying to do in terms of addressing the digital divide. So Aaron, if you don't mind allowing me to do a screen share, what I'll do is share a couple of slides. Aaron, maybe, or let me see if I could do a screen share. Here, I could do it right here. Hold on
Great.
one. Can y'all see this?
We can.
Perfect. So if you'll indulge me, because I like to, I'm going to repeat some of the same things, but I think it's critically important as we always continue to focus on what the vision is for our office and what the vision is for all of our efforts. And the vision that we have for the state of Louisiana is to eliminate the digital divide by 2029. And if you think about where we started, our efforts in addressing this divide didn't just start in the last 7 months when I came into this newly created position within the Office of Administration, Division of Administration. But if you think about it retrospectively, in the fall of 2019, the governor, John Bell Edwards, created through the Broadband for Everyone in Louisiana Commission an effort to addressing the overall digital divide that exists in the state, but also how do we how do we solve that divide in a way that increases the digital competitiveness as a state? And so when we think about the digital divide in Louisiana, we have to always think about really the divide into 3 buckets. First is infrastructure, second is affordability, and the third is digital literacy. And as I often talk about on the road, fundamentally, if we address the access issue, which is infrastructure, if we address the affordability issue, and people still struggle with the basic operations of digital literacy and understanding what to do with computers, then it becomes a wasted investment, frankly. And so it is critical that when we address the digital divide, that we address all 3 at the same time. And I'm really pleased to share that over the last 7 months, that we've been doing this really aggressively and working with Commissioner Reed, which is currently working on a best practice. She's actively pushing out the North Star Digital Literacy modules and program, which is really a best practice when it comes to digital literacy. And so we're thrilled to be working with the Board of Regents on coming up with a construct to continue to push out digital literacy at a per parish basis and also on a per city basis. So really the 3 issues: infrastructure, affordability, and literacy. A couple of things just which are really important ways in which folks need to get organized. A couple of months ago, we pushed out a broadband toolkit. And this toolkit is singularly designed to help parishes, towns, villages get organized. You know, we spend a ton of time on the road, and part of the rationale why we spend a ton of time on the road is, you know, frankly, most of the unserved population that exists are in non-urban areas. And so when we think about trying to solve the digital divide that exists, you know, we have to go to where the challenges are, where the problems are. And so in a lot of these markets, the challenge that existed was, what is broadband, what it isn't, why is it important, and then how do you get organized? And so we've spent a considerable amount of time trying to help parish officials, school superintendents, everyone engaged in addressing digital divide locally to get organized in a way that they can tackle their problem that's unique to their challenge. And I'll give you an example. The last couple of weeks, or actually the last week, we're sort of barnstorming the state, going on a 22 town road show to talk about what we're very excited and we're grateful to the legislature in creating, which is our Gumbo Grant program. We officially launched it 2 days ago, and we've been going around the state, going to places like DeQuincy, Noberlin. Yesterday, we were in Lake Providence, and we were in Vidalia. Representative Travis Johnson did a great job in piecing together a great group of stakeholders. And the challenges that exist when it comes to the digital divide in Lake Providence and in East Carroll is going to be fundamentally different than the challenges in Vidalia, right? Whether it's Concordia or Catahoula or Tensar or Madison. And so the challenge that we have is to making sure that the parishes, the towns, the villages all have a vested interest in making sure we collectively and through an alignment, both from a federal, state, and local level, address the digital divide that exists. So a couple of things. We pushed out this toolkit. We created a brand new website. It's now connect.la.gov. And then there is a ton of information on the connect.la.gov website, specifically in the Get Started tab, that provides parish maps, data, data on literacy, data on median household income and its impact on addressing the affordability issue. And so what I would strongly encourage your listeners and to folks in general is, spend some time on the connect.la.gov website. We purposely meant the website to communicate in very plain ways, in plain English, the complexities that we're trying to solve with the digital divide. And more importantly, how folks can get started, irrespective of if they're a provider or a college president or a stakeholder in general. We've spent a ton of time, as I mentioned, on the road. We were thrilled to have spent a good chunk of time with President Gallo in Grambling a couple of weeks ago, and they're doing really interesting work, especially with the construction of their digital center, digital library, which we're excited to see once that gets finished, because I think that could be a game changer in that community. So spent a ton of time on the road. And where are we with Gumbo? So Gumbo is the Granting Unserved Municipalities Broadband Opportunity. It is singularly designed to address infrastructure and access. When I joined and when I was having conversation with the governor in mid-March, and when we had a sense of what we felt was going to be the number of federal dollars that we were going to receive from the American Rescue Plan, specifically and dedicated for broadband, one of the suggestions I had to the governor was, let's use all of those financial resources to create the state's first broadband grant program. So we're pleased in having worked with the legislature that the governor then signed into legislation then to create the Gumbo grant program. It's 177 million, 90 million, which has been authorized by the legislature for this sort of first round, which application period opened 2 days ago, and it closes December 31st. It is absolutely focused on unserved areas. Now, there is a lot of frustration in areas that are urban where folks are underserved, but the federal guidance that we received focuses us on the unserved population, which are largely folks that have less than 25/3 speeds. The private providers are the applicant, so a private ISP is an applicant, or a co-op is an applicant. In a lot of the areas, for instance, in Senla, and if not Central Louisiana, if not Northeast Louisiana, the co-ops can play a critical role in addressing the challenges that we have with the digital divide. We strongly encourage parishes, municipalities, and school boards to partner with the private sector to provide letters of support, matching funds, or in-kind contributions. So that's part of the rationale why we're going on the road and spending a significant amount of time with parish leaders, legislators, and folks that can help expedite cost-efficient deployment and rapid deployments of these networks. Again, as I mentioned, Gumbo opened this past Monday. The applications are due in December 31st. We're going to spend January and February of next year through doing all the evaluations. Our goal is to announce the awards in mid-March, and then potentially construction begins in April, May of next year. Couple of things that we wanted to highlight, which I think is particularly important for your viewership, is a couple of things. While our focus is on those folks that do not have what we consider broadband as defined by the FCC, we are absolutely focused that the solution that we want to incentivize is at a minimum of 100 by 20 speeds, if not higher. Fiber optics to the home is critical. And if you think about the impacts that broadband can have on a family, whether it's allowing them to facilitate telehealth visits, working from home, applying for jobs online, there's going to be a tremendous shift in terms of remote workforce. So imagine living in the northern parts of West Feliciana. Imagine living in Natchitoches or outside of Natchitoches or Pineville. Imagine living in Lake Providence. Imagine living out on the outskirts of Vidalia, right? Where you can earn decent living and make really good wages working from home. And I'm going to give you a really heartwarming for us. It's really heartwarming story when it comes to, at the end of the day, what is the problem that we're trying to solve? A couple of weeks ago, I had a chance to go to Rodessa, Louisiana. Rodessa is in the most northwestern part of the state. It's a village. It's a couple of miles from the Arkansas-Texas border. It has 4 buildings, literally 4 buildings. The gas station, which doubles as a convenience store, closes at 2 p.m. None of the folks there have broadband. The local village library has broadband going to it, 4 computers. And the librarian there, the village librarian there, was explaining that there was a young resident who was identified by McDonald's as having management potential. She had to come to that village local library to take the certifications exams, which she passed. And now she's on not only the management track, but she's also on her way for her college expenses to be paid for by McDonald's. That is what we're trying to solve. And then Senator Boudreaux, I think you would appreciate this story. After our visit to Opelousas, my colleague Glenn and I, we had a chance to visit with the mayor of the town of Washington. And what they're doing in the mayor of the town of Washington, which is just a couple of miles north of Opelousas, is really heartwarming to us, because what he's doing, despite being in a situation where they're battling against whatever financial issues they're battling as a town, is they're converting an old building into, in essence, and he articulated it as an internet cafe. And he's converting that old facility into an internet cafe, and he's having volunteers who are families, who are people that are in that community, manage that cafe, for lack of a better term. It's a phenomenal opportunity for young people and older people to come and learn anything and everything with regards to digital literacy, skills, applying for jobs, telehealth visits, etc. So if you think about the juxtaposition of Rodessa, 200 people northwest of Shreveport, and you look at what the mayor of the town of Washington is doing, right? Just north of Opelousas, we're talking about resiliency, we're talking about grit, we're talking about folks basically realizing I need to be the master of my own destiny, to take the digital literacy challenges or the digital divide challenges in my own hands and figure it out. And so what we're doing with Gumbo is helping to accelerate that movement and make it easier for folks to bridge that digital divide. So 120 speeds, we want to incentivize 100 ideally, which is fiber to the home. We are strongly encouraging applicants to partner with the folks at the LCTCS to develop local workforce plans, because the last thing we're hearing, or one of the many things we're hearing, is the fact that there's going to be downward compression on the lack of finding talent to help not only do the construction, but maintenance and operations. And so we're strongly encouraging that the companies and applicants, before their submission, partner with Dr. Sullivan in developing local workforce plans. And so hopefully that'll help us understand the depth and breadth of the folks that we need. A couple of other things that I think is critically important. All of the applicants have to participate in a consumer subsidy program, in this case, the FCC Emergency Broadband Benefit Program. We are grateful that all of you on this call are really pushing that program out. Last check, we've had over 166,000 Louisianians already benefit from that program. And the folks in the White House are actually pretty thrilled that we've had such a large number given the population that's benefited. So they've picked up on it, and they recognize that we've had great participation in that program. And we're now making a requirement that anyone that applies for our money has to participate in a federal subsidy program, whether it's the EBB program or whatever happens and shakes out in the infrastructure bill. And then the last and critically important is, and really tip of the hat to Mandy for helping us with really thinking through some of these issues on how we can incorporate Hudson certified businesses and veteran certified businesses by Louisiana Economic Development. So we've actually doubled those points as part of our scoring criteria, and we strongly encourage that anyone who applies for our financial resources partner with a Hudson certified business and or a veteran certified business. So I'm going to stop there. Actually, this is my last slide. And Commissioner, happy to answer any questions now or defer towards the end when there's Q&A. I hope this was helpful.
Oh, very helpful. Very helpful. Thank you. Are there questions? I know there are shout outs because we're very excited about this work. And thank you, Senator Boudreaux, Mandy and Representative Hughes for your direct engagement. Mandy, you have a question or comment?
Yeah, I just wanted to commend Vineeth for the way that he is going about implementing the Gumbo program, being intentional about diversity, equity, and inclusion. Every corner of the state that he goes to talk about the plans for the program, but also just appreciative of the opportunity during the legislative session to weigh in and help ensure that the Hudson program and the Veterans program were included so that vendors and contractors, when they are building out the network, that they are inclusive and being intentional about providing opportunities to women-owned businesses, minority-owned businesses, other types of disadvantaged businesses. And just for the benefit of everyone on the call, the Hudson Initiative, named after the late Representative Doc Hudson from St. Landry Parish, was designed to ensure opportunities for small entrepreneurs in the state who are by and large women and minority-owned businesses. So very excited to see that feature of the Gumbo program and to see Vineeth reaching out to our team at LED and saying, help me find these potential subcontractors, help me find these folks that have skill sets in bearing fiber, dirt work, you name it, outreach. So anyway, I just wanted to give a shout out to the great work being done.
Thank you, Mandy. Appreciate it.
Thank you, Mandy. Other comments, questions? You mentioned, Vineeth, the LCTCS. I would imagine that you anticipate applicants also including their local HBCU, their local university or community college within their plans as well?
Absolutely. And so I think that the workforce challenge that exists will be largely around the construction of a lot of this work, fiber splicing, right? Some really technical things, ongoing maintenance and ongoing operational support. I had a chance when I was in Scott, Louisiana last week to actually understand the whole sort of how is fiber optics laid and how it connects to the houses. It is really complex work and it's great salaries. And so I think there's an opportunity to really partner with the HBCUs to focus on that piece of the, not piece of the training. But I'm going to tell you, and it just thought bubble just came up where I think HBCUs can play an even more critical role. And I apologize. I'm on the side of the Claiborne building where there's a train coming.
Me too.
So I
I'll mute
apologize.
mine.
Okay, so this train should hopefully pass, but if you don't hear me, then I apologize. This is where I think there could be some really interesting synergies with HBCUs. As Mandy said, broadband isn't just, hey, we're going to construct, we're going to provide access and then happily ever after. The US Chamber did a study in 2019 where they identified that specifically to Louisiana, that if we were to increase the digital access and digital literacy significantly, let's say by 50% towards rural small businesses, then we would create 4,888 jobs. We would increase payroll by 200 million. Those rural small businesses would generate an additional $1.5 billion. It would increase Louisiana's GDP by $823 million. And so I think an awesome opportunity would be, how do we get the HBCUs, which have a great deal of influence in the areas that they operate in, to help rural small businesses in the areas that they are located in get digitized. And when we say get digitized, if we can start to identify a clustering of, let's say, 25, 30, 40, 50 businesses in and around where HBCUs operate, help I do an assessment on how are they using e-commerce and how are they using the internet to help drive sales? How many of those businesses lack internet connection and connectivity? I think that's a great opportunity for us to interject within our office to help with addressing the access issue, but then also work with all the HBCUs to help upgrade sort of the digitizing effect that these companies can have once they leverage the internet to help drive sales, right? And so I think that's a really unique opportunity that we would love to work with you all on in terms of sort of clustering small businesses, helping them get access, and then helping to do what we think we think will be the intended outcome, which is driving jobs and small business growth in a lot of these areas.
Great, thank you so much. And I'm sure Mandy in her other role will be able to help us with that as well. So really appreciate, Vineet. Hope you can stay with us through some of the meeting, but just really appreciate the passion and the focus and the outreach, and we are committed to erasing that digital divide with you by 2029. And I think with your leadership, we're certainly going to get there. So
thank you, Dr. Reed.
Thank you. Okay, I'm going to move us along, and so excited that Brian Lauser is with us, who's the policy advisor for U.S. Senator Bill Cassidy. His policy area includes communication and technology, and certainly appreciate you, Brian, for being with us today to share lots of conversation, obviously at the federal level, and lots of need here at home. So welcome, and please share whatever you'd like with our group. Thank you.
Yeah, no, thanks so much for having me. Use the conversations at the federal level. I think that there's a great phrase about mistaken motion for progress sometimes, but having spent some time with Vineet in Baton Rouge and watching the state legislature operate down there, I think that one thing to just say at the outset, we can be a helpful conduit. I think that in terms of legislation, obviously the infrastructure bill, the bipartisan one my boss was working on, is a high priority for us. But it's kind of it's high stakes. It's not as sort of incremental as a lot of the things at the state level. I would pivot right off of Vineet's the Connect LA document. Was able to observe earlier this week, but there's a couple of interesting little paragraphs in there that I think are applicable for my role here. There was one that references a billionaire that's going to make my internet work or something like that. I might be paraphrasing too much, but I think what's interesting there is a lot of times it's easy to oversimplify the role of building sufficient connectivity in any given area. The internet is a network of networks, and ultimately you have to connect your computer to several layers of other networks and get to eventually there is a cable or two that spans the whole globe and connects everybody together. But it needs to be contiguous. So whether that original signal is coming from a satellite, Starlink, or it's being built out of a high capacity ring in your area. At the end of the day, network engineers build these things. And when it comes to federal sources, you need to be very specific in your applications about a lot of things. We don't tend to be very inputs oriented. We tend to be outcomes. So we're going to specify speeds. We're going to specify various eligibilities. But at the end of the day, it's the folks on the ground, whether it's an internet service provider on the private sector, a municipal government, a public-private partnership. Recent legislation's been pretty flexible on what those application components can be in terms of the participants. But at the end of the day, from a federal standpoint, we want to see these are the speeds you're going to achieve. This is the length of time that the build out is going to take. These are the contingencies we've planned for. There's matching funds at our level, any number of things. I'm going to go ahead and share a link here. So, from a federal standpoint, there's really FCC and NTIA. as far as what your applications are going to go to. And please don't be daunted. This is a technically a 305-page document, but it's all linked through. So you specify kind of what you are and what you're looking for, and it should help you navigate. Now, that's not to gloss over the fact that there are many and arguably pretty fragmented sources of support. Traditionally it comes from the Department of Agriculture through the Rural Utilities Service. They tend to fund electric co-ops. So I think up in the kind of the northwest part of the state, there's a handful of electric co-ops up there that have deployed a lot of fiber. FCC regulates the commercial airwaves. So you might have heard from, the Rural Digital Opportunity Fund. RDOF was $20 billion about a year and a half, 2 years ago, that folks have applied for. And then the bipartisan bill that's kind of waiting a vote out over on the House side would run $65 billion through NTIA. Those grants would be available to applicants who are going to achieve the speeds. As Vineeth mentioned before, you need to demonstrate that you're under or unserved based on those federal definitions, 25.3. Just to muddy the waters even more, up until a few years ago, USDA used a different definition of what unserved was. They used 10 down, 1 up, or 10 up, 1 down. 25.3 is pretty accepted right now. The debate lurches forward as to how future-proof are these networks going to be. At the end of the day, it becomes is the perfect going to be the enemy of the good? Are you going to build this once, or are you going to get something that works right now? The document that he had circulated, the Connect LA, I think it really does a good job of outlining the various technological ways. You can use fixed wireless to deploy digital information, fiber to the premises, as you mentioned. Your local telcos, if they're providing cable, they're probably going to have an infrastructure that's heavily built on coaxial cable. And everybody's got their kind of views. Like I said, I don't claim to be a technician or a network engineer. If you talk to the cable companies, they're going to tell you that the new DOCSIS format is going to allow them to reach gigabyte symmetrical speeds. A lot of folks, do believe that fiber is the future-proof technology medium. But anyway, so I kind of went down a little bit of a rabbit hole there. I would say, in addition to the NTIA document, there is a very recent development. There's a pilot program out of NTIA called Connecting Minority Communities. I don't know if any of you have participated in NTIA's discussion sessions recently. Applications are due on December the 1st, but I can provide information on that. I'll send another link over here. They've been very forthcoming and willing to seemingly work with applicants. It's 268 million, which not going to say isn't nothing, but it will certainly go quickly. Put that out there. That's the second link. But I just observed a briefing that they did, all the career staff over there talking about the specifics of what they're looking for in an application. But that would seemingly be something very worth looking into, even if, it's just a matter of having the conversation with them. If an application isn't feasible at this point, those are the types of conversations that can help inform what demand is. It's just a pilot program, so they're kind of putting feelers out to see what works and what doesn't on that front. So, we're, like I said, we're here to be a conduit too. I don't, I'm not under illusions that I can answer all your questions right now, but I can definitely put you in touch with folks. Just very recently, lobbed in some concerns to FCC about the timeline on the long form applications. At the end of the day, creating continuity between the federal sources and your local and state resources as well. One thing I think I would have to stress is that the internet doesn't know what government municipal lines are. So, to the greater extent you can build an application that is going to reflect the highest efficient, the highest and best use is a label that's given to spectrum auctions and in the current US code. And I would say that the highest and best use of any federal dollar that's going to be used to create connectivity is your best bet too. I guess one other piece of the broadband infrastructure or the bipartisan infrastructure bill is that the FCC is going to operate an extended emergency broadband benefits on the consumer side, trying to make sure that these technologies are accessible as well. So I don't have quite as polished of a presentation as Vineet, but I appreciate it.
Can I make a comment?
Sure.
So, really thanks to, you, Brian, and Senator Cassidy for always being accessible. We work very closely and well with Senator Long, Gerald Long, former Senator Long, on, a lot of community outreach, et cetera. I like to work under certain assumptions, and at least to get ahead of the curve and to prepare for what could be something that's going to be, that could be a game changer, which is the bipartisan infrastructure bill. As Brian said, there's significant money for broadband throughout not only just the states, but also through federal programs. What it means specifically for Louisiana, should it pass, is that every state gets $100 million, and based on accurate FCC maps, because we are considered a high cost state, and the high cost is the fact that in certain rural areas that houses are maybe 4, 5, 6, 7, 10 miles apart, then the cost of providing last mile connectivity is going to be more expensive than perhaps other areas. Then we're probably going to receive significantly more money on top of that $100 million to addressing our broadband needs and to addressing the digital divide. And so I'm going to be going up to DC in a couple of weeks to meet with folks from the FCC and NTIA and so on and so forth. But again, assuming that the bipartisan infrastructure bill passes, and given this constituent that's on the call, I'd love to get ideas from y'all on this call, and maybe Commissioner Reed, maybe you can sort of help us consolidate the feedback. Where can we generate more flexibility? Perhaps should this infrastructure bill pass, Louisiana gets its allotment of money. I'd love to get some ideas specifically in where we need to create flexibility in the early part of the rulemaking that could directly benefit HBCUs in the state of Louisiana, obviously on top of NTI money and so on and so forth. And so, love to get ideas and thoughts from the folks on this call as we start the, at least at a high level, start understanding where we can advocate for specific things, HBCU related, non-NTIA money for Louisiana in terms of programmatic activities, what projects we should fund to addressing that digital divide. I would appreciate that.
Oh, thank you so much, Vineet. We'll absolutely do that. I wonder, Walter, I'm calling Dr. Kimbrough and then maybe Chancellor Pierre, any initial thoughts? I'm happy to, after this call, send out sort of a request for information, but I know that the campuses have, talked a lot about just the need for overall infrastructure, making sure that people have access. Obviously, the emergency broadband has been helpful. But I know we're trying to, address the hardware issues, but then move beyond that as well. And so, Walter, I wonder if you have any initial thoughts, and then Chancellor Pierre.
Yeah, well, my thoughts are the same, and I apologize because I'm gonna run to another meeting, but I hope to be back by the time we finish. I feel like, particularly those of us, because I think it was mentioned in the presentation earlier, there are going to be some different needs in the more rural areas of the state, even though there are infrastructure needs here in New Orleans as well. But I think for me, I think there's still more bang for the buck that can be gotten if this is really focused more toward municipalities versus to try to run it through the HBCUs. It just seems like I don't know if that's the most efficient way to try to do this. So I mean, when we had our first conversation, that was what I thought about, and I'm still at the same place. I haven't moved to see how do we take a lead into something that to me is a much larger issue that I think cities and towns should really try to provide this to strengthen that infrastructure, because that benefits everyone. I don't know. That's where I am. I'm still the same place I was when we first had this conversation.
Got it. Absolutely. I do think that, Walter, I wonder, can we sort of marry the two concepts? Obviously, when you think about big infrastructure, we need to make sure we have a big solution, right? Something that is inclusive and addressing the needs of all of our communities, urban and rural. But then I do think there's sort of this niche conversation about HBCU talent and where do we add value. If it's the digital literacy conversation, if it's the e-commerce conversation, if it's, cybersecurity conversation. I mean, if you become connected at this level, it's a good thing, right? Because now you have e-commerce and telehealth, but it can be a challenge as well. So if we're not building it with the cybersecurity in mind, with the e-commerce in mind, with the assessment of need in mind, then we may end up with more haves and have-nots. So I do want to think about how do we bring the HBCU talent to bear to think about issues beyond just fiber and just connectivity.
Yeah, that's fair.
Right, and just that's a great comment. Commissioner Reed and Dr. Kimbrough, I fully get that push-pull, which is, look, we HBCUs, and it's the same argument everywhere we go when we talk to school superintendents, which is, look, I got to first take care of the kids first, okay? But I also recognize that there's a greater community need. I also recognize that once the kids leave the confines of their four walls, they're going to still have access issues at home. I also understand, though, that schools, given the existing infrastructure that they currently have, can play a role in addressing the greater need, right? And so, as the commissioner said, if let's say, and I'm just throwing stuff out there, I don't know anything, I don't have the science or the numbers, but let's assume that we have $1 billion, okay, in Louisiana to once and for all solve the digital divide. And let's say the challenges that we have to solve around the digital divide is, again, access, literacy, and affordability. And if we have 462,000 Louisianians between 18 and 64 that lack basic literacy skills, which isn't just app development, programming, it's not coding in Python and creating the next Instagram, it's the struggles that low-income families have in East Feliciana that's preventing them from facilitating a telehealth visit. I'd love for the folks on this call sort of to ideate and understand what roles HBCUs could play. And maybe that means, hey, could we carve out some modicum of that $1 billion or fictitious number to focus on digital literacy interventions or e-commerce or talent pipeline development? My dad often says, and I'll stop, Vineet, sometimes you build castles in the air, right? And so let's actually, for the first time, look at maybe building something in the air, but with the reasonable guesstimate that we would love to take. And I'd love to get those ideas, because I think now's the time. When I met with the governor a couple of weeks ago, the governor's like, now's the time, again, assuming that the infrastructure bill passes, to start saying, hey, this is what we think would make best sense from a policy perspective.
Yeah, absolutely. And I know Emmanuel is on this call. I'll mention this and then go to Chancellor Amons, but imagine the students as digital navigators, right? And having this sort of core of students who are engaged and able to do this as well. And so I definitely think that because the HBCUs are such an asset and of the community, that we can leverage our smarts and our connections to really help to move this forward in a way that is productive and equitable for our state. Dr. Amons, and then maybe Chancellor Pierre.
Yes, thank you, Commissioner. Good morning, everyone. I mean, what a great conversation we're having this morning. And as I think about the question that's on the floor, I think about the major role of colleges and universities, and especially historically Black colleges and universities. We are in the business of educating. And so as I take a look at these 3 pillars. And going back to President Kimbrough, when it comes to the infrastructure piece, I think there's some limits to what HBCUs could do. But then I take a look at affordability and digital literacy. And I think if we look into the numbers, if we look into the data, and Vineet talked about some things around family limitations where there isn't access, I think there is a real opportunity for HBCUs to provide, first of all, literacy, education, and then also to be a place that may be able to provide access to resources that connect to this network of networks, to the internet. But the big thing that we do is that we produce talent. All right, and so, almost every morning you read a paper or you listen to the news. There are these big issues in technology and positions that can't be filled. And so I think with greater investment in programs on our campuses in areas like cybersecurity, like quantum computing, blockchain, et cetera, the role of HBCUs can be enhanced. And in that area of education and a place that could provide resources, technology resources to families in all of these areas where there are limitations, I think if we sit down and we look at the data, I believe that we could create a path that would bring access to some of these areas that have just been left out of this technology world that we're in.
Thank you so much, Dr. Amons. Agree with you on that. Chancellor Pierre, I wonder if I could have you comment and then lead right into the conversation about the NTIA grant and the webinars and the convenings that you have helped to bring the HBCUs together on. Can you hear me, Chancellor Pierre? Okay, let's see. You guys can hear me, huh?
Yes.
Oh, there he is.
Let's see if I can. Is he frozen? Let's see. There's someone else from the Law Center on. Ms. Johnson, maybe?
Yes, I'm here.
Ms. Johnson, I don't know if Chancellor Pierre can hear us or not. Would you like to start, or can you send him a note?
Yeah, myself and Greg Clinton are here. Chancellor have asked us to give a brief description of the CMC grant.
Sure.
Greg, could you get started on it?
Sure. Good morning, everyone, Commissioner and Chancellor Pierre. Once he gets back on, Commissioner, you had asked about the convenings that we had done, the convenings as far as the work we're doing to connect the minorities communities pilot program grant informational sessions. We worked with NTIA this past summer to create 3 sessions to provide information about the upcoming competition. The Connecting Minority Communities pilot program is a bold initiative by NTIA. What they're interested in doing is creating pilot programs, and they're creating pilot programs to figure out what are some best practices and what are some projects that will need additional funding in the future in the event that they're successful. The pilot program itself has a range of $500,000 to $3 million for projects. Those projects are geared towards broadband infrastructure, digital literacy, providing new programs that encompasses the community or outreach to the community, as well as just looking at what's that next new innovation. There's not a maximum or minimum amount for the proposal. There are some proposals I've seen that are less than 3 million, and there's some proposals I've seen that are more than 3 million. So what I have worked with Southern University Law Center as a consultant to help develop their proposal for the upcoming competition. The competition opens up on, the deadline for submission is December 1st. A number of places are submitting their application earlier. A part of this proposal requires that 40% of the $268 million be allocated towards HBCUs. And that's roughly, if every HBCU provided a proposal at $3 million, roughly about 35 HBCUs that would be a part of the competition. What's unique about the proposal now that occurred later during this summer that we were not privy to until the last minute, there are a group of schools that were interested in creating a consortium of schools to apply for the grant. That was ruled out, that was not allowable, that you can create a consortium of schools to apply for the grant. What did occur, though, was that they created an opportunity where schools can collaborate and become partners if they're within the same 15-mile radius. So in Louisiana is a good example where in New Orleans, you have Southern University New Orleans, you have Xavier and Dillard. The three of them could partner together to apply for the grant. But if they partner together as one applicant, then whoever is the lead on the applicant is the only one that receives the applicants and provides sub-awards to the other two, and the other two cannot apply independently. So we are looking at developing our proposal and developing, we're looking at developing our proposal this month. We've been talking a lot about what we want to do. Infrastructure is a big piece of this. So from the infrastructure standpoint, HBCU's infrastructures are crumbling across the country. So the biggest piece was as the baseline that you create infrastructure across the campus from building to building, as well as throughout the campus to provide high-speed internet access. And that's the baseline. Then on top of that, the idea is to build programs that supports, that only can be done through the infrastructure that you're doing. And then the third piece along those lines is to create community opportunities or internet access, as well as programs to communities within a 15-mile radius of the campus. There's a map that shows what that 15-mile radius of the campus looks like. And Aletta can show you all now that what it looks like in Baton Rouge, as well as what it will look like in New Orleans. Aletta?
Yes. Sorry.
Greg.
Okay. So this is the dashboard that CMC have created. So just let's say we're the HBCUs and we are state of Louisiana, of course. You see all the entities then can be part of it. And then we are Southern University. Let's start with law school. So when we put that information in, this is the 15-mile radius. This circle is the 15-mile radius that we can, include people into or entities into. But if that include these pink areas is part of this 15-mile radius, then yes, you can extend to those areas. That's why it's being showed as part of this 15-mile radius. And as you expand, you can see the areas that you can go to, or you can put in an address, say Scotlandville. See, we'll show you which fell within that pink area, so you know you can include that. So if you have specific addresses, you can put in the specific addresses in this area to see whether that particular entity can be included into this application. Now, let's pick another area. So let's go to New Orleans. So New Orleans, that's what you see in New Orleans. But if you put in, I think if you increase the size of it, you will, see. Well, let's do this. That's New Orleans. But if I go and say, Xavier, you see how close it was? It just, so that's what Greg is talking about, these areas, and that, see, Xavier, New Orleans, they all are part of this 15-mile radius. That's why they can work together to get this grant application submitted that way. But you see, because of this, you see how it is extending to more areas, these pink areas. You see how they can include all these. I mean, this dashboard link is already with the CMC sites, and you can use it to see which areas of Louisiana we can use, you know. You see Dillard University, Gambling, Southern University, New Orleans, Shreveport, Southern University, Los Angeles, Xavier University, all these are part of the Louisiana HBCU.
Anna, can you put the link in the chat for everyone?
Sure.
For the map? And
Yeah.
then I wonder, Chancellor Pierre, can you speak to the law school's interest and then broader HBCU and Louisiana interest that you're aware of? Is he on? If not, Greg, maybe you can take that one.
With the law school interest, our interest has been to expand the clinical legal programs from the law school, disaster recovery program, to expand that program, to expand some of the small business programs like the trademark, patent, and copyright clinics to people in the surrounding areas, as well as provide broadband infrastructure at the campus, as well as throughout the landmass itself. We're taking the lead on the application, and we're including both the university as well as the law school. Throughout Louisiana, there's a good opportunity for some type of application for the schools in New Orleans if they wanted to put together a proposal together, if they're not doing one individually. What we're looking at across the competitions are that schools are trying to figure out what's unique about their schools and what opportunity that they feel that can be expanded or broadened as a result of this competition. Like I understand, like for Xavier, for an example, I understand they do a great job on providing a pipeline of students going to medical school. So if that's a program, whatever that program is, that you like to expand and get a higher reach for your school, that's a proposal or a part of the competition that NTI is looking favorably for. The thought would be that you also want to, another issue is that trying to meet the unmet need of the students as a result of COVID. A lot of schools have provided resources for students like MiFi devices or Chromebooks to get students to get through the pandemic. However, was not a lot of thought given to the quality of those devices or strategically what devices to use. So there's a number of places now, there are a number of schools who are looking more specifically about what devices to provide and how to get the best impact based on the devices that they provide. On the broadband piece, although, as you all know, $268 million is not a lot to solve the real problems, but it's a good start to pilot programs to say, provided we have more resources, we can do a better job. So, and so throughout Louisiana, as well as throughout the country, there are schools who are coming together trying to figure out what their signature programs are and how they can promote it within their community as well as nationwide.
Great, thank you. I don't know if Chancellor Pierre is still there with us. But thank you so much, Greg. And you mentioned that you're working with NTIA, so helping to make sure that the word is spread for others, correct?
That's correct.
That's great. That's great. Thank you. So we're excited about that. A lot of thank you for putting the map link in. Obviously makes it easier. There's an interactive map for you to see where is your 15-mile radius, and certainly Emmanuel want to make sure that your campus and the New Orleans campuses have an opportunity to participate. Mabel, I don't know if you are aware if our HBCUs in New Orleans are looking at this.
Yes, Xavier, I'm looking at this for Xavier University, and we will apply as one institution.
Okay.
We are looking at a number of the areas that have already been mentioned. We're partnering with some of the current partners that we already have. For example, we updated our infrastructure about 2 years before this grant was offered, but we are looking to work with Cisco to expand that access on our campus and in the surrounding areas by adding another layer of 5G access to improve our download speeds beyond what we already have. We're looking at the devices. We're looking at partnering with respect to professional development, hiring additional positions, technology positions for the campus. For example, next year, Xavier will break ground on a 500 bed dormitory that we've needed for some time because we've been housing our students on other campuses because we don't have enough space. And I'm looking to the grant to expand that wireless access beyond that 500 bed dormitory, as well as improve the network capacity on the south end of the campus. Because once we add that 500 bed dorm, I would say 70% of our students will be on the south end. So we'll need an increase in capacity because most students bring 3-4 devices when they come to campus. So we're looking at increasing our capacity. We're looking at telehealth, cybersecurity, professional development, increasing the number of technology staff members, some operational upgrades. So that's kind of a few things. And there's a second CMC grant that I've been in talks with Scott at the NTIA office. It's called, I think, the Broadband College CMC grant. That this particular grant is working with students and educating students about broadband and actually having those students work in the 15-mile radius to capture some of the data that we will need to do our evaluation and assessment.
Great. Thank you for that, Mabel. I appreciate that.
Okay.
Dr. Amons, I don't know if he's still with us.
Yes, I am.
Are you all looking at the grant as well, Dr. Amons?
Yes, we are.
Okay.
Yes, we are. And our plan is to work with schools within our area to both see if we can provide access to neighborhoods and homes, but also to see if we can encourage more students, especially minority students, to consider careers in technology by providing camps as during the summer, during the school year, working with teachers on how to teach math, how to teach technology, and enhance our programs here on the campus For instance, developing a program in data science, in computer science. We have computer information systems. But to get at the gap that we have in terms of jobs that are available and people who are qualified to fill those jobs.
Great. Thank you for that. Dr. Kimbrough, I don't know if you heard the question, but we're trying to find out if the HBCUs in New Orleans are going to be applying for the NTIA grant that's due December 1st.
No, we're not.
Okay, got it. All right, so we have a good handle on that, and obviously good resource in our state with Brian and Vineeth and others. If you all have questions or we need to move this forward, one of the things, Vineeth, that might be helpful is whether we're successful or not, the grant won't do everything. And so we will have captured a list of things we wanted to do that we weren't able to do. So that allows us, I think, to have a list for you and Brian and others as we think about the infrastructure bill and where we want to go in terms of addressing needs.
Right. So Commissioner, and just to add a couple of bullet points, I would, if y'all can, the ones that are applying, if y'all can send a note to me and then maybe CC the commissioner. I just want to make sure we're tracking who's applying for what. Whatever letters of support you need from us and from our office, we would be more than happy to provide, strong letters of support for this grant program and for all of you. So that's one thing. The second is, and just wanted to your point, broadband is really new. Everyone's attacking it, the challenge at the same time. I'm on a weekly call with my peers. In fact, we have one at 2 o'clock to talk about mapping. We're all attacking at this in a little bit of a different way, but to your point, it's not like we have a long 50-year legacy of applying for technology grants. And so I would strongly suggest, even when you apply, if you're not successful, it's gonna provide an enormous amount of intelligence and data and planning that's going to be critical for our office. And I'll explain why. Again, should the infrastructure bill pass, the way it works is that, right, every state gets 100 million. In order for us to trigger that extra amount, we're going to have to provide a 5-year plan for the state. The federal government that's administering the money is going to require that every state come up with a 5-year plan that determines how much is it going to cost to addressing the digital divide, how much is it going to cost, and what the tactics are to addressing the affordability issue, and what is it going to cost, and how are you going to tackle the digital literacy. So regardless, we're going to start that 5-year planning process. We're partnering with the Pew Charitable Trust that does the most amount of work when it comes to broadband. They've selected Louisiana to where they're going to provide 12 months of technical assistance and planning, et cetera. And our goal is to start getting ahead of the curve on the planning for that 5-year plan sometime in January, February of next year. So just in a few months. So again, strongly encourage whatever we can do to support now, but if not successful, I think we're going to learn a great deal between now and the next time we are successful in applying for this grants.
Great, thank you. And we put Vineeth's email address and mine in the chat. So please make sure you send to us. As he mentioned, if you need letters, let us know in advance. But regardless, please send the application so we can track all that information as well. So very excited for this conversation. Thank you. Okay, did I hear from everyone? Let's see.
Can I just throw in one little thing
Sure,
too?
Brian.
Depending on the source of federal funding, it's really important, per Vineeth's point, to make sure that a current award doesn't preclude you from eligibility for another one. So there's generally an idea to say, if this area is being built out, and like you mentioned, the long-term nature of some of these projects, there's a general hesitancy sometimes to just kind of meld those together. So it adds to the need to coordinate. So appreciate that.
Great, thank you. Okay, so let me make sure that there are obviously other issues that we want to make sure we hear about on the campuses. So I want to make sure that if there are other issues you want to raise, and Dr. Amons will call on you first. If there are other issues that you want to raise that you want us to be aware of that are priority issues, I know we've been working with you collectively on our student safety, Title IX issues, obviously concerned about gun violence, trying to make sure we're moving that safety forward as well. Lots of reform efforts that we're excited to partner with you on, from the teacher recruitment, retention, and equity work to math reform. So there's a lot of things that we're excited to work together on, but this is your moment if you want to highlight any particular items on the campus. So Chancellor Amons, I'll start with you. You're muted.
Okay, all of those things we are working on across the Southern University system. I came before the Board of Regents at the last meeting to talk about co-requisites and the progress that we are making in better preparing our students to complete their degrees on time. Getting through those courses, we have found is a big determinant of how much time a student spends trying to finish their degrees. One of the other things too that we are working extremely hard on is the area of health disparities. As a matter of fact, the Department of Natural Sciences here at the university recently received a grant from the Louisiana Department of Health to develop this collaboration on expanding curricula, training and outreach, nursing, pre-med, under COVID-19 response health equity strategy. Although we are seeing great progress being made in the decrease in COVID cases across the country, we continue to have that as a major concern. And so we are, again, partnering with the Department of Health to continue to advocate for vaccination, but to also include our entire university community, including our students, in educating our community, the university community, as well as the larger community, on the benefits of being vaccinated. This one is in the next one that I'm going to speak about for a minute is in line with what we were just talking about in terms of the broadband, and it's in keeping, Commissioner, with the Board of Regents master plan, trying to educate more people in the state of Louisiana. This 60% goal that we have of having credentials or degrees by 2030. And so this year we have implemented 5 new online programs here at the university, and of course, broadband, the ability to provide access to our students, access to technology to our students is big for us. And we will continue as we move into the future to continue to increase the number of programs that we deliver online, and also keep in mind too the need for access to technology for our students. Another one is in the area of dual enrollment. This year, we exceeded 600 students here at the university, high school students who enrolled through dual enrollment. And again, one of the things that we found is that there are challenges with technology, because many of the courses that we are offering are being offered either online or in some hybrid format. And, again, directing our focus for the NTIA grant is this firsthand experience that we're having with students who are coming from limited resource families in neighborhoods where there is minimal access to the internet. And so this application that we're putting forward is indeed inspired by the firsthand experience that we're seeing with our students who are enrolled as regular students here at the university, but also enrolled through dual enrollment. So those are some of the highlights of issues that we are working on. Of course, there are many more, but due to time, I'll stop there.
Thank you so much, Chancellor. Appreciate it. Dr. Kimbrough, any highlights from you? Campus highlights?
No, the main thing I want to, just talk a little bit about is that we're still working through some of the impacts from Ida, which has been interesting to say the least, because you don't have any visibly catastrophic damage, but you realize you're spending a lot of money doing some cleanup, and then you get some buildings you get into that find some other issues. So we have about 100 students that we're starting to get back from a hotel downtown, Hilton Riverside. So we're working on that. So I think those are some important things. One of the things that'll impact everyone. I had a conversation with Michelle Cooper with the Department of Education, and UNCF has been having this conversation as well, but because of the amount of money that was provided for our institutions as a part of COVID relief and the tight window in terms of which to spend it, I know a lot of people are trying to figure out, like, where am I going to spend the rest of this money? Because there's only so much technology that you can buy. So we're trying to get them to loosen up some of those restrictions so that, and I think initially they're going to extend it a year, but a no-cost extension for a year, but really to allow us to use those funds in different ways to really strengthen, because I think we can make the argument here, not only just for mitigation from Ida, but to help all of our institutions really do some hardening for just, natural disasters as a whole. I think that's got to be the conversation. And the local presidents, we have conversations regularly, and Dr. Ammons and Dr. Verretta are always participating. Dr. Steib is on it. We participate in those conversations, but we got to figure out as a city, how do we harden? Because it's not a viable strategy to be able to evacuate every time people hear the word hurricane. So we're starting to be engaged in that kind of work as well. But hopefully, I'm going back to the Department of Ed. If we're successful doing that, that could be helpful for everybody. So I'll keep people posted on that. But we're just, trying to get back to normal. Homecoming next week. And then the other big thing that I say they're working on is that they're starting the presidential search here too. So that'll be an exciting time for a leader to come in. So someone that all of you will get a chance to work with. So those are probably some of the highlights for right now. Just still, like I said, Ida still lingers. So we're still dealing with some of that and just trying to get back to normal before the semester ends, which is actually in a couple of weeks. It's going by really fast. Yes, so it's just been an interesting fall, but we're starting to see normal activities, which I think helps everybody's just, mental attitude about dealing with things when, we can all just do some of the things that are fun and those kind of things. We're actually having Actress Journey Smollett on campus today, so that people are excited about that. So having some of those traditional college activities has been really good for everybody's psyche at this point, still in the pandemic and after Ida, just trying to make sure everybody's okay.
That's great. Thank you for that. I think the Saints win helped us a little bit too.
We got to get the Pelicans right though. So hopefully we can get Zion, get him fixed, and get them winning. That'd be great too.
That's it. But thank you for mentioning just the mental toll of multiple hurricanes, pandemics, all of these things on students, faculty, and staff, and certainly our leadership. So thank you for that, Dr. Kimbrough. Chancellor McMeans.
Good morning, everybody.
Good morning.
I'll start with some of the challenges that we're facing. As you know, as a part of one of the funding supplemental packages during the pandemic was $4 billion set aside for socially disadvantaged farmers, in our case, Black farmers, for the most part. That money is now tied up in court. It's being contested by several groups. And so our farmers were already struggling before the pandemic. And then the pandemic exacerbated it, then Ida. So I'm glad that we're having this conversation on broadband, because we had to physically go to our farmers and help them fill out paperwork because they did not have access as relates to broadband, as relates to internet. So we had to take our mobile unit it was out on the road 6 days a week during the pandemic. But we wanted to make sure that they got the resources that they needed to at least from the crops they lost or the need for additional resources. But we're still having a challenge there, a big time challenge. I think one of the things that makes me feel pretty good, at least for Louisiana, is that Congressman Cedric Richmond is in the White House, and he is trying to assist us in getting resources to our socially disadvantaged farmers. So that's to be continued. It is one of my frustrations that money is tied up, and we have thousands upon thousands of farmers that need that money from the foreign acts, from the FSA. Of USDA. So hopefully that money will get shaken loose. The other thing that's nationally occurring is that Congress will be listening to testimonials about the state match requirement for the 1890 land grant institution. Speaking of shout outs, I want to give a shout out to Commissioner Hunter Reed. Because we were one of those states that met the match for our land grant funding. So I want to thank you and your staff for working with us. We came right there. I think it's the first time we met the match in about 20 years. And so I just wanted to give a shout out and thank you for your support. Really appreciate it. And I have a couple of good things that I wanted to brag about. I told you last year we rolled out the 1890 scholarship for the 1890s, and last year we received $1 million. I'm happy to say that we have awarded approximately $822,000 in scholarship funds to 134 students. Wow. And 81 of these for this semester are first-time freshmen. We are extremely happy, and we received an additional $1 million at the beginning of this semester, and I'm really happy. In my former life, me and individuals at North Carolina A&T and FAM, we worked on this, and thankfully we found congressional support of the Black Caucus to push this through. As a result of that, our enrollment has increased from 336 in the College of Agriculture, has increased from 336 in 2020 to 441 in 2021. Which is a 24% increase. If we go back to 2019, we were at 294. So if you go from 2019 to 2021, that's a 33% increase in our enrollment in the College of Agriculture. So you could, I point at two things. First, the scholarship, obviously, we're being very intentional. I always tell people that by 2050, we have to feed 2 billion individuals. We're not graduating enough individuals in agriculture to fill these positions that are going to be necessary, whether that's science, soil science, plant science, entomology, you name it, areas in climate change mitigation. So we are really working hard to graduate these individuals. The other thing that we did that we never had is we have a recruitment and retention officer. And a person has an agricultural background, so they go in and really talk to the students about what is agriculture, because they have in their mind what agriculture is, and it's a lot of what most of us do, traditional agriculture, in the fields and what have you. But then when you show them that you can grow plants in a test tube, or you can You can change a plant's color and how they deal with stress and drought. It's amazing them. And so we are in the high schools and the middle school with some of our youth development programs. And we are so busy that we're getting ready to hire another individual to work in the recruitment and retention, because now we're getting asked to come to the places where we have a strong alumni base like Houston, Atlanta, Orlando. And so we're really excited. And our goal by 2024 is 600 students. And I think we're well on our way. And then hopefully we'll get back to those days that I remember when I was at another university. The College of Ag was always in the top 3 or 4 in the country. So I think we're on our way back there. And just my final 2 things, I just wanted to let you know that recently the Secretary of Agriculture has made 2 significant appointments, and the Senate has confirmed both. The first one, who's an alum of the College of Ag at Southern, is Randy Moore. And you may have seen an article on him. He is the first African-American chief of the Forest Service in his 116-year history. And he has already came out shooting. I'm telling you, he's already sent some money our way. He's also going to support some research in the 1890s. And we asked him for 2 things, and we got them both. So we're happy for that. And then another one you may be familiar with, Daniel Whitley. Daniel Whitley, who was also an alum of the College of Ag, was just appointed permanently by Secretary Tom Vilsack as the administrator for the Foreign Ag Service. That is a very, very powerful position. And he too is the first African-American to serve in that capacity in the 91-year history of FAS. So we have a number of alumni that are rising to great positions, and our students and our faculty and the Southern brand is benefiting for it. So that concludes, my report from the Southern Ag Center.
That's great. Thank you so much. Exciting information. And let me share Chancellor McMeans, your thank you on the match rightly with Senator Boudreaux and Representative Hughes, because as you know, the Board of Regents can advocate, but we don't appropriate. So it takes fantastic legislators saying, let's put the money in to make the match 100%. There's no reason for us not to do that. And so I'm grateful that we have some solid champions in the legislature who are always there. And these 2 are certainly, we're grateful for them and so excited about those significant first at the federal level and the alums.
Yeah, and I want to echo Senator, my thanks to Senator Boudreaux. I wasn't really familiar with the Louisiana politics. I was in West Virginia for 21 years, and he sat me down and we had a good heart-to-heart conversation. So I want to thank him for the advice he lent me on that day. Good. That's well.
He doesn't steer you wrong, I tell you that much. I have had that conversation as well, and it has always proven helpful. So thank you. Okay, so Robin, I think I saw Robin Merrick on for Southern Baton Rouge.
I am Commissioner Reed. Good morning. Good morning, everyone. Let me turn my camera on here as we try to share an update. Good morning, everyone. I certainly want to say it's a beautiful day on the bluff, and we're very glad that we have this opportunity to visit with you all this morning. Also want to share our thanks to you, Commissioner Reed, for the work that you're doing at the Board of Regents. As always, we are huge fans here at Southern University, and certainly to the HBCU Advisory Council for the work that you all are doing as this work continues over the last several years and is growing. The work of this council is growing, and I'm very glad to be witness to that work. I want to add just a nugget that our Board of Supervisors did approve. Approve the policies, the power-based violence policies at our last board meeting. So thank you for the work that has gone on with that. Probably would have happened in September had it not been for Hurricane Ida, pushing our board meeting on to October, but we did get that done. So we're grateful for that too. As Dr. Kimbrough mentioned in his report, we too are in the process of our search for our President Chancellor. Unfortunately, Dr. Belton could not be with us today. He did announce his retirement, I think, as you all are aware, back in July, and that is going to be effective about just short of a year from now. So the search has begun. Our Board of Supervisors launched that work, and we expect to get some updates from that very soon, and looking to see what that search will yield. Good news for SUBR. We're excited that our student enrollment has increased for the second consecutive year on the Baton Rouge campus. That's we're at a number of 7,404 students currently enrolled. That's a 7% increase from last fall. And that number includes both our undergraduate and graduate numbers. Indeed, excited about that. And that really speaks to the work of HBCUs, speaks to the work of Southern University, that we are indeed a viable option for many students and our alums that are sending their young people back to Louisiana. Also want to point out in that number, while our enrollment still continues to be majority African-American, we are still speaking to a number of other groups, and this includes a 75% increase in our Asian students, students of Asian descent, 25% increase in students of Native American or Alaskan Indian descent, and a 15% increase of students in Hispanic descent. So we're seeing numbers bump across all of our ethnic groups, and we're grateful for that too. I think you all are aware, this year we were in the top 20 of the US News and World Report, top 20 historically Black colleges and universities in the nation. This is significant for us because we moved up 14 points. We were 34 in the previous year. We moved 14 points into the top 20. So that is a good thing for SUBR. You all are also aware that we're coming off of homecoming activities here on the Bluff. Good times had, just didn't win the game, but that's okay. We came back this past weekend and did another number to end a losing streak that we had to Alcorn State. So that was good, about a 5 or 6 year losing streak. So we sort of burst that. And I do point out this athletics is important to our HBCUs, and we are excited that we're able to do what we're doing, and we're going into this fall season preparing for the Bayou Classic, which will be in New Orleans. It'll be a celebration of not only Southern and Grambling, but all HBCUs in Louisiana have an opportunity to participate and share in that joy with us. Lastly, Dr. Ammons touched on our work that we're doing with the Don't Wait, Vaccinate campaign as we continue that work across the state of Louisiana to encourage not only our students, faculty, and staff, but our communities in vaccine participation. We are holding vaccination events in several locations across South Louisiana, primarily through our work and partnering with LDH for that work as well. And Commissioner Reed, I want to thank you for visiting our vaccination site. It's growing. Our numbers are up for testing and vaccinations there on the Baton Rouge campus. So we're excited about that. And we're continuing our mask mandate across the Southern system as well. We do understand Governor Edwards did lift that mandate for Louisiana, but for our campuses in the Southern system, we are going to continue the mask mandate through the end of this semester, and we'll revisit at that point and see what it looks like for the spring. Lastly, I'll mention we are working with the House of Representatives. It's time for redistricting in the state of Louisiana. We'll be hosting one of the redistricting roadshows at SUBR, and that's going to be on November 16th. So we encourage everyone to come out, and certainly our students to participate in this every 10-year exercise that we have an opportunity to enjoy, and that is time for redistricting and taking a look at what the census has shown us over that time frame. So again, we thank you for this opportunity, and Commissioner Reed, thank you again, and members of the HBCU Advisory Council.
Thank you so much, Robin, for that good report. Her comments about vaccines and masking remind me that I'm sure you all are aware that the Shot for 100 has been extended for another month. So that gives us a chance to continue to promote that with our students, faculty, and staff. But thank you very much for the good work that's happening on your campus and in the system as well. Is someone here on for Xavier University? I didn't see Chancellor Verrett.
No, Dr. Verrett is not here. Dr. Moore is here.
Oh, Dr. Moore, that's right. Dr. Moore, any other updates, Dr. Moore?
Other than the fact that we will have our homecoming celebrations this week. Our president continues to work diligently for Xavier and our students. We did have an increase in enrollment at Xavier University this year also, and have had consecutive years of enrollment in spite of our pandemic. And I can confidently say that we are a 100% mass campus, and over the 2 years of the pandemic, our exposure rate for our students never exceeded I think it's like 1.6%, and that we were a mask campus with social distancing from the start, and we continue to be that.
That's great.
So-
Thank you so much.
But if
Appreciate
I
that
might add
update.
from the
Emmanuel?
student side. Yes, ma'am, if I might add, I would also say one of the great things that we noticed during the hurricane, if you kept tabs of the students were evacuated, those who were still on campus, to Dallas, and we came back fairly quickly. The school was quite quick and very responsive in terms of getting us back in person. It was a lot of work on the part of the faculty and staff. But what I can say is that for the most part, the students greatly benefited from the resources that the university provided to us in such a quick turnaround of time. A lot of students were able to apply for aid, either directly from the university or some aid that was given as well. We had a lot of alumni that chimed in. And so what I can say is in terms of that area, we've done pretty well about getting back up and on our feet and kind of bouncing back.
That's great. Thank you for that. It's always important to know how the students are doing and how we're doing supporting the students. So thank you so much for that. Chancellor Pierre,
Yes, can you hear me?
we can.
All right, great. Well, we have had a pretty interesting fall semester. Our enrollment now is above 900 for the first time in the history of the Law Center. So we've continued to grow. There seems to be a robust interest in law school and graduate school since the pandemic from 2020. We have been able to do a lot. We recently were awarded a distance learning and technology grant from the USDA. So a lot of the conversation we had earlier about CMC is connected to our DLT. So distance learning and technology grant allows us to provide educational resources across the state of Louisiana. So it's the second grant we received, and we included 14 other locations, many in rural communities like Grand Coteau and Jonesboro and Tangipahoa Parish, Kentwood. A lot of these communities, either through libraries or public schools, are going to get distance learning technology that will allow us to spread what we call the gospel of Southern University Law Center and our resources across the state of Louisiana. So we're very, very happy about that. And, we're just looking forward to a lot of good, positive things. We have an ABA site visit coming up in the next few days, and we're hoping that all that goes well. And, we'll continue to progress and make good things happen.
That's excellent. Thank you so much, Chancellor. Appreciate it. I don't think anyone is on from Southern Shreveport. Confirming that. Okay. I wonder, I know Senator Boudreaux is on. Senator, anything from you as we sort of think about the landscape of policy issues and work to be done and opportunities in our state?
Well, thank you for your leadership and thanks to everyone on the panel. I know the schedules are just so busy. There are so many things going on, but to be able to dedicate, an hour and a half, 2 hours to further this cause is very important. And I just want to say, I'm soaking it in because this gives me an opportunity to just view the landscape throughout the state as we talk about our HBCUs. And then when we look at the agenda, to have Senator Cassidy's office on, and he's been a champion from the Republican Party side, and he's been connected to our needs. But no, I just want to just commend and encourage that we continue this dialogue. As I hear the numbers at our HBCUs continue to increase, that's because there are strength in numbers and that we are coming together. It's not us against them. It's us fighting to make sure. And as Chancellor McMean said, the political side and the legislative side is so important. And I just again want to say that I know the leaders of all of our institutions understand that, and they have gone above and beyond to not only reach out to the caucus members, but to those members that are not part of our caucus, but either graduated again, from the Law Center in Southern or somewhere. So let me just end by saying this is very important. It's going to make a difference as we continue to move forward with the HBCU movement. And if we can just, continue, Ms. Merrick just talked about the redistricting. If we can stay engaged in that process and make sure that we have equal representation, and we get a few breaks at the federal level, we can really turn the corner on funding and so many other areas. So again, thanks for your leadership, Dr. Reed, for the preparation for these meetings. And I had 3 other Zooms, but this was the most important one for me. Having a brother and sister who both graduated from Southern, my older brother and sister from Southern University of Baton Rouge. We got to keep this going. So to all of our leaders that's on this call today, from the one senator that's on the call today, on behalf of the legislature, I want to thank you and ask you to continue the fight. It's a good fight, and we're going to get there.
Thank you so much, Senator. And I want to also call on Representative Hughes and thank him for joining as well.
Thank you, Commissioner. Let me apologize for the background noise. I'm multitasking, and it's also always great to be joined by my big brother, Senator Gerald Boudreaux, who's just a consummate gentleman, and I've learned so much from him and just really appreciate his extraordinary leadership. I echo everything the Senator has said, and Commissioner, first, let me congratulate you for all the accolades that you've assumed over the past month. I think it's a testament to your leadership. And we appreciate you not only serving as our commissioner, but our chief talent officer, constantly cultivating talent. But want to also commend you and the Board of Regents for the robust agenda that you all unveiled a couple weeks ago. You'll be coming to the legislature seeking more funding. And as we talk about being more competitive as a state, our higher education institutions have to be fully funded, and we have to invest in higher education and cultivate talent. What stood out, though, is the continued investment in GO grants. We know that's so important to students of color and benefits our HBCU. So thank you for that. And the final thing I'll say is to President Kimbrough, just want to thank him for his leadership. Congratulations on an extraordinary decade of service at Dillard. Certainly myself and Senator Boudreaux and others will be honoring both President Kimbrough and President Belton on the floor of the House and Senate when we reconvene. So thank you all for your leadership and partnership, Commissioner. Thank you, and thank you all.
Great. Thank you so much, Representative Hughes. Just very proud of you. As you all know, I always say mama proud when I see Representative Hughes, because he worked for me in the Blanco administration and I knew him when. And just so excited about the amazing things that he is doing, and certainly grateful for Senator Boudreaux and guidance as well. So I think we've heard from our leadership on this call. I certainly want to thank Brian and Vineeth for joining us. This has been fantastic. We want to make sure that we are at the table, engaged, an asset, a partner when it comes to advancing connectivity in Louisiana. And so really appreciate you sharing where we are, encouraging us to stay connected to you, and encouraging us to apply for the dollars that are out there. So we'll look forward to that. And certainly for those of you on the call, if you need support, no suffering in silence. Raise your hand, let us know how we can help so that we can do that. We will look forward to our next meeting. I don't see my note of when the next meeting occurs, but I know that we will be preparing for our future meeting. Oh, I see, in February. And we've been rotating those, so hopefully we'll be safe to have an in-person conversation There's been a request to talk a bit about partnering with manufacturing industries and talk about internships and education to employment pathways. So we'll look forward to those conversations and others. The legislation that Representative Hughes has passed last session requires us to provide an annual report to the legislature, which gives us an opportunity to share the good news and the work and the challenges that we're facing. And so we'll be drafting that report. If you're co-chair of a committee, please be on the lookout for the draft coming to you to take a look at so that we can get that over to the legislature with everyone's review. And with that, I'll ask Aaron if there are any public comments.
There are no public comments to now.
All right, hearing none, I will thank you. Also, there is a Lumina Complete College America HBCU Digital Research Grant Opportunity, $1.5 million. And we want to make sure that you are aware of that. You should have received several links, articles and websites about the initiative when you receive today's meeting agenda. So we want to make sure you have that information if you'd like to submit an application for that. So we want to continue to be a resource to share the resources that are out there for you. So that concludes our meeting with 8 minutes of your time back. Is there a motion to adjourn?
So moved.
Second.
All right, Dr. Amons with the motion, Dr. Teamer with the second. No opposition. Have a great day. Great seeing everyone. Thank you.
All right. Thank
again.
you.
Thank
Take
you.
care.